All right, we're going to get rocking and rolling. My name's Tony Roberts. I'm a recovered alcoholic, sobriety date April 8, 1989. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the Big Book Study Workshop with a program of recovery laid out by the first 100 men and women and those on Zoom joining us. We got worksheets, the workbooks, so if you want to get caught up and stuff like that, this is one of those meetings where we share experience, strength, and hope. It's a specialty meeting put on by AA members in order to help those who are yet to find a solution or those who have a solution to enhance what they have, right, and get back to the basics of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things that I keep reiterating, and which is interesting, I've never met anybody who's ever done this the way it's laid out in the book, right, who's maintained it, who's ever relapsed. I've never met one person who's ever done that, right? So I got something happening here. So, which is interesting, I hear a lot of people say, they did it or they didn't do it, and they continue to relapse. Then you ask them to show you what they did, and they can't show you. Right? So if you can't show somebody what you did, have you actually done it? So how many people thought they've done it but couldn't tell you how they did it? How many people talked like they'd done it? Every meeting I go to, right? I heard something really good at one meeting, I'm sharing it at the next meeting, right? Right? Some of you sound so good after 10 days, you got people asking you to sponsor them, right? And they say, I only got 10 days. Wow, that's quite the talk, right? So we're going through the symptoms of alcoholism as agreed on and laid out by the first 100 men and women. We don't incorporate the 12 and 12. That's a totally different book for a totally different purpose, right? You hear a lot of people making reference to the 12 and 12. It has no real... If you're kind of new to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and you haven't been through the big book yet, other than looking at the traditions, which I don't know how interested you'd be in the traditions if you can't get sober, but I was one of those guys that my sponsor taught me the traditions first. That's another story. Everybody has a right to be here, right? Anyways, some of you get what I'm saying. So the book is designed in such a way that they talk about their experience, that if you follow what they did, you could have the same experience. It's collective, right? It's not a singular thing. It's not my program, your program, right? I'm doing my steps. It's very interesting. We're doing the process as laid out by those who went before us. I'm incorporating that within my life to have the same experience. It's like anything, anywhere in Canada. If you take a certain apprenticeship course, or you become a doctor, a dentist, a plumber, a mechanic, you have to take a rigid course in order to pass by the end of it. Like my daughter's a Red Seal welder now, and she has to pass certain tests. As she goes along, she has to do so many hours and stuff. And at the end of it, she could weld anywhere across Canada now. We're very proud of her. She's awesome. My other daughter's becoming an environmentalist. I don't know where she got that from. But anyway, that's another story. So they learn a certain technique, and they learn a certain aspect of that. So the process that we're looking at is already kind of gone through. So part of what we looked at, we understand the physical allergy. We should have a good understanding of that, right? If you're kind of new to the group, we've put the talks on YouTube. You can get caught up, or there's worksheets back there. But everybody pretty much, once the allergy was explained, it makes sense, the phenomenon of craving. How many people get thirsty here when they drink? Right? How many people concerned with work, life, or anything else while they're drinking? How about when you come to? What do you mean it's Thursday? Where was I all week? You went for lunch and you didn't go back. Like, whatever. Who are you? No, anyways, that's a different story. I didn't know it was my cousin. Okay, so we all know about the allergy and doing horrific things. Anybody do horrific things while drinking here? So it wasn't really the drinking was the problem. It was the horrific thing. Right? Because that's a bad night of drinking. Well, I drank too much last night. Well, why did you drink too much last night? Because I got in trouble. The nights I didn't get in trouble, I didn't drink too much, but I drank enough. Am I the right people? Right crowd? So that's how I used to gauge my drinking. Right? I didn't get in trouble last week. How much did you drink? Not enough to get in trouble. Right? But enough. Always enough. But sometimes those lines would get blurred. And so if I could just, like, most of us got here because we had a consequence problem, yes? How many people came here because drinking was going well? Right? And it's really with the mindset, you come here and you look at all these happy people and you wonder what our problem is. Anybody ever look at us? Why are these people so happy? They're not drinking, right? And then you see there's something different about them, right? There's something different, and that's kind of reiterated in the book when we kind of went through it. So we understand the first part of the allergy, and we're going to kind of back up. We'll just hit the part where we are now. So on page 22, they talk about here, which is interesting, if you kind of go back on the different type of drinkers, we've already covered that in great detail, yes? Yeah. And a lot of us should have a, no, I'm not this type, no, I'm not this type, no, I'm not this type, and then, so what type are you? Then they go, what about the real alcoholics? So then they talk about at the bottom of 22, we know while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years. Anybody ever stay away from drinking for a while because they had a good enough reason? And people are still giving you the stink eye? Usually when people stop mentioning your drinking is a good time for them to remember why you don't drink, right? Anyways, so months or years, which is kind of baffling because we think look, I've done it before. Anybody have that mentality? Look, I've done it before. I should be able to do it again. But the point is you're doing it again. Why are you doing it again when you didn't want to do it before? Something clicks in the mind where it makes it a good idea to have a drink. Anybody? Near beer, near drunk. Anyways, it's like snorting baby powder. What's the point? Okay, anyways. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. Sometimes stuff escape here. So, we're equally positive that once he takes alcohol whatsoever into his system, something happens both in the body and the mind. We all know that, right? Anybody here? Got all the intentions before you drink, you have a drink, then all the intent. Anybody get the rent money mixed up with the drinking money? Got the grocery money over here, the drinking money over here, and the good intention money over here. We might as well start with the good intention money, right? And anyhow, moving on. So hundreds of episodes shown that we haven't been able to really control our drinking. And most of us, how many people have tried to moderate or quit here? Numerous times. How many people has had warning of people around them, intervention or concerns? How many people had concerns about you before you had concerns about you? Right? Now, when you have concerns about you, then it's a problem. Beforehand, it's their problem, right? Time to find new friends. Okay, so on the next page, they talk about these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting a terrible cycle in motion. It makes sense now that when I took that drink, right, that drink wanted another drink. Anybody? Mm-hmm. And that drink wanted... So there's nothing... I'm looking ahead to, is there enough? Is the waiter or waitress fast enough, or do I need to order more? Am I in the right room? Or do I need to move closer to the bar? If I'm with social drinkers, I make more trips to the washroom and stop at the bar. Anybody ever get a drink at this bartender and get more shots over here? Want to add to this? Okay, anyway. Yeah, anyway. So they talk about, therefore, the main problem the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. And we talk about this condition that makes it an illness, right? And it makes it beyond our ability to control, feel, and see and touch, right? And so it's kind of baffling. If you don't understand the illness, it kind of doesn't really kind of make sense why we keep on drinking again when we don't want to drink, why we cause ourselves so many problems, why, anybody? Why we continuously go. I mean, it gets so bad we're even going to go to AA. Like that, oh, there's a drama. So, oh, man, the worst thing that ever happened to me, Alcoholics Anonymous. How many people have been there? Right? Like the jail sentence begin, right? It's like, I'm going to AA, oh my God. Right? And then, so how many people thought alcohol was the best thing that ever happened to you? Turned out to be the worst thing that happened. So how many people used to think AA was the worst thing that ever happened to you? Turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. You ever notice people are more happy to see you than you are to see us? Why are these people smiling so much? Because you're still on fire a bit? Good to see you. Okay. So they talk about here, we've covered it. Once this malady, this condition of the mind, it's how many people looked up the word malady this week? It's a condition that they know is present, but they really can't determine what causes it. There's a whole bunch of definitions in regards to it. Any one of these fit. They all kind of cover the malady, a condition of the mind. And they talk about, later on, they talk about on page 24, when this sort of thinking is fully established, they place themselves beyond human aid. That means it reiterates what the doctor talked about. These people keep on drinking regardless of their desire not to. Right? They keep on over and over and over again, right? And so where we are now, we're kind of seeing, we've seen the example on 26, 27, what the obsession looks like for us to try to be our own solution. Then we got into more about alcoholism, and we kind of covered the first part. Most of us have been unwilling to admit we're real alcoholics. So now when they use the term real alcoholic, what does that mean? That we really don't want to believe we have what condition?
The physical allergy.
Well, the allergy is that we could, the malady, right? Because that I have a condition that I can't look after or take care of or watch for. How many people like the idea of watching for it? Well, if you have an illness, I like the idea of watching for it, then I apply the steps to it when it happens. How many people want to see a drink coming? That way you can do the steps. Right then, or phone somebody and, look, I was proactive. I seen a drink coming and look what I did. Boy, it was close. Anybody ever talk like that? Well, what happened the other time? I didn't see it coming. It just knocked me off my feet. I'm drinking. And then how many people remember drinking and then remember all the people they told they were never going to drink again? Look how great I'm doing. Look how great I'm doing. Right? Come on. I can't be the only one that's been there, right? And they look at you shocked and you wonder what their problem is. What? Okay. So we see that the first part, they talk about, we learn that we fully have to concede to our innermost selves that we're alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently maybe has to be smashed. So what's the two ideas that need to be smashed?
That we can help ourselves.
Well, that's part of the first, that's the first obsession, is the idea that I could come up with my own game plan. How many people have been to a meeting this week? How many people do you hear coming up with their own game plan? I haven't been able to stay sober before, but this time, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And, oh, here we go again. Very few people go, oh my God, I can't seem to get sober. What do I need to do? You ever notice we have a hard time with that concept? Huh? Right? It usually comes with picking your own sponsors. Okay, so anyways, we'll leave that one alone. So, oh, there's a person that looks like they don't know as much as me. You want to be my sponsor and talk about my emotions all the time? Oh, sure I do. Yeah, what's the second thing? Yeah, that we have this allergy, that I'm abnormal, and that every time I drink I'm going to trigger the allergy, and there's always going to be consequences in association with my drinking.
Sick mind, right?
Well, that's in regards to keep drinking again, right? So there's the human part that a lot of people mix up for the illness. But when I'm not drinking, I seem to be able to recreate my life pretty good. Anybody here? I seem to do pretty good. I'm a little crazy. Right? Until it doesn't work anymore, right? So that's why we kind of, when we look at the human condition, we think we're treating alcoholism because I'm feeling better, right? I'm confusing feeling better with getting better. So, and I'm confusing the fact that I can't see this thing when I think I can. So I use terminology like, oh, the obsession has left. I don't think about it anymore. What you just said is you don't understand step one, or step one doesn't apply to you. Because this condition was part of the homework, is you're going to look at how they explain the summary of step one. Anybody did the homework this week? See how quiet it went online too. Hello, gee, look at that. We'll go over it again tonight, okay? So, whoa, that was close. Some people are like, don't ask me. Look away, right? Their eyes got bigger. Oh my God. Okay, so the first part was the allergy, and then the second part here on page 33, they move into the condition that centers in the mind, right? and they talk about, they close the summary of once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, right? Commencing to drink after a period of sobriety, we're in short time as bad as ever. Anybody ever have some sobriety and they're worse off than they were? Anybody's relapses here getting better? Anybody in your family, friends, or close circle looking forward to your next one? My mom, I was like 3 years sober and I went and visited my mom. She had a bar in her place. I said, what's that? She says, it's a bar. Most people have. I said, why do you have it now? She says, because I think you're going to be okay for a little while. So what's the key for? I think you're going to be okay for a little while. Right now she doesn't even lock the medicine cabinet anymore. That's another story. Okay. So we are in a short time as bad as, if we're planning to stop, right, drinking, there must be no reservations of any kind, nor lurking notion that someday we'll be immune to alcohol. That's smashing the idea that moving from I have a consequence problem to maybe I have alcoholism. Or better yet, maybe alcoholism has me, I don't have it. Because it's been determining my conduct, my life, and the way I live for a long time now. Anybody? How many people make decisions based on your drinking? Well, yeah. It's like, how far away is, how many people went apartment hunting and wonder how far the liquor store was? Or the beer store? Or the dealer? Whatever you're into, right? All the above. Okay, so that someday we'll be immune to alcohol. Immune, mean to drink with impunity. So if I still think I could drink with impunity, is there any point of going any further? So we see, that's why in the doctor's opinion, they say they soft touch the idea of this thing happening in the mind. He calls it this desire again, but he really goes with the idea that these people continue to relapse until a psychic change occurs. Remember that part? His observations on these certain types of people. What certain types of people that were beyond his ability to help, which was Bill, right? After a second time in treatment, he was resigned to the fact that Bill was the type he'd come to regard as hopeless, right? Meaning he had an alcoholic mind. He had this malady that made the decisions for him. Did Bill want to drink? No. Right? How many times did Bill thought he had it going on? Then he had a step one experience, and he realized this thing after leaving treatment the second time, right? Fear kept him sober for a while. Then the insidious insanity returned. So that's the recycling of the sobriety clock, we call it. Meaning I'm never drinking again, then tick, 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 tick. 1 month chip, 2 month chip, 3 month chip, tick, tick, tick. No treatment for the human condition. Everything's getting louder, right? Stop not like you people more because I'm not liking me, right? Anybody? And I'm biting down a little harder because the human condition is becoming real again. Like the realization that I haven't done with my past, my future, and people want me to be accountable. People want their money back, and I keep on still thinking it's my money. The government, the warrants, anybody? Their problems pile up on them, and they find it very difficult to solve. Why? Because we're very consumed with self. Right? If you don't have coping mechanisms, why wouldn't you have coping mechanisms? Goes back to what Bill did, right? When the market crashed, everybody was jumping from high finances. That disgusted me. What did Bill do? Went back to the bar. Is that common language for us? See, because if you got a problem and you go to the bar, pretty soon that problem's gone. Unless it's a warrant. That's the difference, right? How many people? Right? So we say, I lost everything. No, you seen it go one drink at a time. You invested your time over here and your life. So what you didn't lose all these things. All these things lost you. Interesting, right? All these people, places, and things are waiting for you to recreate your life because normally when most of us are sober, we're pretty good people. Hardworking, right? We have a lot of potential. Right? Yes? Yeah. Then we tear it down by senseless spree. So that's what they're kind of getting into here. Right? If we're planning to stop, okay. Young people may be encouraged by this person's experience to think that they can stop as he did. Page 33, on their own willpower. Remember they talked about that on page 23? What's their first obsession? Is they can fix themselves with the self. Rise from their lethargy and exert their self-will. To what? Not drink. That's what this guy did, right? How many people were hoping they were of that type? So how many relapses is it going to take? Well, maybe I'm not. 11 years in and out. Maybe I'm not of that type. Okay, so anyhow, we don't, many of them, because none of them will really want to. Who really wants to stop when alcohol works as the right as a soother for the human condition? Come on, how many people when they took a drink felt the promises? You intuitively knew how to handle situations that used to baffle you, right? You've seen how your experience can benefit everybody around you, whether they want to hear it or not, right? Any belligerent drunks here? Okay. Why are you arresting me again? Okay, anyways, leave it alone. Okay. We doubt if many of them can do it because none of them will really want to, and hardly one of them because of the particular mental twist already acquired. So which is interesting, a lot of people think they're coming here and they're doing step one. What you're coming into agreement is step one has already been happening. Yeah. Right? It's already been happening. So what we look at is the symptoms, and we go back in our drinking history to see when it started to happen. I know exactly the first time I felt the phenomenon of craving. I know exactly the first time it happened. It's not important your first drink. Right? It's like the first time I ate pistachios, I had no problem with it. But as life went on, I started having some reactions to it that I didn't recognize, right? And I thought it was something else. Some symptoms kept on compounding. And then it put me in the hospital and got my attention. And I've never eaten them since, right? Regardless if I like the effect produced by choking. But that's a different meeting, I think. Sorry. Still waiting for a 24-hour chip. Okay, so... I don't know why I go there. Pray for me. Okay, so, and hardly one of them because of the particular mental twist already acquired. So now they're calling the malady a particular mental twist. Yes? And they won't be able to win out because regardless of how it ends up, we're without defense against the first drink. So when I look back, I remember the first time I drank against my will, but I didn't know I was drinking against my will because I thought I was making a choice to do it. So I was 15, and that time I was standing on the 18th floor balcony. I was on a 3-day run, and I was thinking on ending my life. I really thought about ending my life. I thought, if this is the way the rest of my life is going to look, forget it. And then when I finally crashed and came to, I thought, oh, my God, like, what happened? That was, like, how I was conducting myself. And a couple other things happened. I thought, I'm not drinking anymore. Then I forgot I wasn't drinking anymore. Anybody? And then some other things started. I started having blackouts, but I didn't know I was having blackouts because I was coming to in situations going, how did I get here? And oh my God, what did I do, or what did I say, or how did I conduct myself? Anybody? Yeah. And so my first meeting, I was 16 years old, right? And I got into the fellowship, and I really enjoyed the fellowship. I really did. I went back to Conestoga College. I started working on a degree in blueprints and construction and stuff like that. I was doing really good. I was in the church. I was looking at Bible colleges because I found God. That's what it's said to do, right? So I went on a quest in step 2 to find God. How many people have been there? I'm not going to do the rest of the steps. I'll take it from here, right? Anybody? I'll take it from here, right? And so, I'm going to go to Bible college. Everything's fantastic. And I'm doing, when I looked, I said, I'm doing. So the first time I drank after that, I said, now I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing really well. So there was a girl in the facility also getting sober that I didn't know. But we kind of connected. 2 red lights kind of, shining in the distance. Oh, something's shiny. It's amazing how we can find the one with the red light. Anybody? Yeah, we can find our own people, eh? So she, I don't know, it was Sunday, we were singing like Mr. Bean. I had the suit on, and things were fantastic, and I'm doing great. I'm impressed with, my life is the best it's ever been, considering where I come from and how I grew up and all that other stuff. Like, my life's doing fantastic. She phoned my buddy that I was at, because I wasn't home, I was at his place. She goes, is Tony there? And I talked to her, and as soon as I heard her voice, I knew she was drinking. You ever listen to somebody you know? Yeah. You just know there's something different. It's like a choir starts to happen, right? And she goes, oh, I'm drinking, I'm in trouble. Can you help me? I said, I'll be right there. And my friend goes, this is the twist that happened. My friend goes, because you used to have to go in two people when you're like in that stuff, right? So my friend goes, I better go with you. I said, I better go alone. That was Sunday. I don't know what happened from Sunday to Wednesday, but I remember coming to an abandoned car. The front was gone in a field. And I'm drinking out of a 26er. She's huffing out of glue. And I'm thinking, how am I going to introduce you to my mom? This is the girl of my dreams. Anyway, she got arrested somewhere along that time, and I haven't seen her since. But anyways, that's how to get rid of girlfriends. So the mental twist already acquired. So then they go over on the next page. Anybody feeling better about their sobriety, right? Okay, there you go. So that was at 60. I got 11 more years of reasons to go back to AA. Anyways, we'll leave that alone for later. So then the next page, 34, they talk about as we look back, right? We feel we've gone on drinking years beyond the point where we could quit on our own power. Now that I started to understand this malady and I look back, it explains why I was in and out for 11 years. There was, think about that. There was 11 years of good enough reasons to come back to AA. Horrific things. I only talk about the things that are socially acceptable. Never mind the rest of it. I mean, horrific things. Like, you know, I don't know how many people have come to out of a blackout here firing a FNC-1 military assault rifle at people in the barracks laughing. It was well before that show happened. What was that guy's name? Sat on the bed, private, whatever. Way back. Okay, so, huh? Yeah, Private Pile, right? I get identified with that guy, but I didn't shoot myself. Thank God for that. Okay, then they talk about here, how shall we help at the bottom here? Well, you should have read this, hopefully. This is the recap. So, how shall we help our readers to determine to their own satisfaction whether they're one of us? One of who? The people that put this together. So they're going to use certain terminology and idea that they all agree on. Yes? Yeah. They're all agreeing on the wording and what makes us different than other people. And now they're going to go to the reader. Let's help you to determine you're one of us or not. Right? So what will we be looking at to see if we are one of them or not? They started that conversation already. They called it a malady. They said, as we look back over our drink, we've seen our inability to keep ourselves sober. And how many times did you think you made the decision to stop? Or you made the decision to start? How many people were under the impression they made the decision to cause havoc in their life to a point where they had to get sober again? And again. And again. And again. Or once. Right? They're such unfortunates. So they talk about here, how shall we help our readers to determine to their own side whether they're one. The experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but that's why they call it an experiment. We already know that if you're one of us, you're not going to last long. You like a week, 2 weeks, a month, maybe you stretch it out to a year, year and a half.
33 days.
33-day, regardless. But you get to a point where you think it's a good idea to take a drink again, and regardless of all the effort you made not to. That's like having a job because you're almost broke and destitute, and you're so thankful for the job. Anybody? And two paychecks in, you think you're doing them a favor. Huh? Total twist, right? I don't need this job. I quit. I thought you were broke. Not anymore. And then 2 weeks later, oh my God, why did I do that, right? That's a totally different problem. Maladjusted, full-fledged from reality, and downright mental defectives. But anyways, perhaps to the medical verses. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crutch of the problem. So you hear people say, oh, relapse isn't a part of my story, then you don't have a story. Or you don't understand what we're talking about, because it's about the inability to keep yourself sober. A relapse is returning to an undesirable state. It's like when you quit smoking. Anybody ever quit smoking here? And then have a relapse? You went back to smoking? It still counts, even though you didn't go to a 12-step fellowship, right? We think it only counts if I try to get help. Well, you're doing an act against your own will. Because really, most of us get here because we're unsuccessful in keeping ourselves sober. Right? If you're successful in keeping yourself sober, then the 12 and 12 study meetings will be great for you. Just don't drink no matter what, and talk about how great you're doing. Talk about Bill's experience like it's yours. Because you didn't do what Bill did to get that experience, so how would you be able to talk along the same lines of the experience? Does that kind of make sense? So what are we looking for is we're looking for the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for this is obviously the crutch of the problem. We call it the malady, right? And so as we go through this, it's interesting. Our first example, we shall call Jim. Then it talks as we go through this, right? We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we have found. So what 2 steps did they talk to him about? 1 and 2, right? He made a beginning, which is he made a decision. Yeah, I really want this. I'll do this. I'm willing to go to all the meetings in the world. Even willing to read page 417, which wasn't there. But he's willing, right? He's willing to keep himself sober based on self, yes? Well, let's see. His family was reassembled, so he'd be talking about all the promises coming true. He began to work as a salesman for the job he lost. To his consternation, he found himself drunk a half a dozen times in rapid succession. Is he surprised he's getting drunk again? Why is he surprised? Because he made a decision that he didn't want to drink again, right? But the malady keeps on presenting itself, but he still thinks he can keep himself sober. Anybody? It's different this time. I've learned my lesson. So, moreover, right, he would lose his family. So now he agreed that he was a real alcoholic. He agreed he's a real alcoholic, meaning what? I have both symptoms, that I'm beyond human aid. But it didn't seem to get lodged in a course of action. He just exerted himself even more. So yet he got drunk again. We ask him, yet he agrees he's a real alcoholic. He does step 1. And the step 1 confirmation is you're going to get drunk again. That's confirming step 1, isn't it? Yeah. How many people were under the impression when you do step 1, you should be able to stay sober? That's not our step 1. That's why people don't like big book studies. They like the 12 and 12. They give you the false sense that once you surrender or have acceptance or just remind yourself every day, here's a conversation. Okay, Tony, remember, you can't drink today. You didn't do good last week, but we'll try again this day. And remember, you can't remember, right? Remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. What's the most important part there? Remember, you can't remember. Oh, yeah. Started off sober. Night didn't end too well. Okay. So then we got the suddenly. The thought crossed my mind, right? And regardless, he's been there before. He's been in this situation before. He agreed he was a real alcoholic. He agreed that if he got drunk again, he would lose everything and end up back in a puzzle factory. How many people have been with that foresight or that understanding? I can't drink again. I'm in trouble. I can't do this. How many people? And how many people did it again? So that's what he's surprised that he did it again. So then again, it reiterates the thing that he's obsessed with the idea that based on his own knowledge and understanding that relapse was unthinkable. Yes? And he's surprised he got drunk again. Why? Because why is he getting drunk again? Because he haven't had a psychic change or spiritual experience. And then that was the end of that guy, right? They don't go on to talk about him getting sober, right? But he was trying to get sober. So then they talk, whatever the precise page 37, whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. So now they call it a mental twist. They call it insanity, all in regards to what symptom? the malady. And have they called it the obsession yet? What's the obsession in regards to? The second one, in regards to drinking, it's regards to that we could control and enjoy our drinking. We don't even really admit we have a problem. We have a consequence problem, not really a drinking problem. It's one I can still manage. Anybody been there? So we see that's the progression of alcoholism. We try to manage it, try to curb it, try to stick to near beer, try to something, keep the edge off, but we can't because of the allergy, okay? So then they talk about here. Ready? This is the explanation that I ask you. How many people found this as the explanation to the homework that we asked you to look at this week in regards to the full explanation of this condition that's beyond explanation? Remember, they talked about it as a riddle. We're not sure that once a certain point is reached, little or nothing can be. We can't answer that riddle, right? We don't know why. That once these people get to a certain place, they're beyond any scope of help that we could create, right? Remember, Bill was like that, right? And so the first 100 men and women. So we see that these collective experiences, that all these people that were of this type, of the type of come to regard themselves hopeless, or they come to regard themselves as step one. Their step one is they admitted they were powerless over alcohol. It was a part of their process. When you're reading that as a new person, you're admitting you are powerless. They are no longer powerless. They're talking about having an experience that they're no longer in the same condition they were when they started this, right? So when you look up there, you can't identify with what they're talking about because you don't have the information they do. How can you? It's in chapter 5. It's 5 chapters of information to summarize the points.
Because they were already recovered.
Well, yeah, that's what the whole experience is based on, right? So as we go through here, it says, whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? And I use that example many times about, and some people walk up, is that true? It's not a true story. I use it as an example, and we seem to tune into it better. Is like when I got diagnosed with being allergic to pistachios, it was a pretty serious talk and emergency. I had the IV hooked up and all that stuff. Anybody remember the first time they had serious consequences? Oh, yeah. Okay, so that usually that teaches new people that's enough, right? So when they told me that, I said I was never eating pistachios again. So 6 months goes by, and I'm in Toronto, and they're roasting them on Yonge Street, and it's a hot day, and then I thought maybe it was the red dye on the pistachios that caused me to get sick. These don't have red dye. And the other ones were from Africa. These are from Brazil, so I should be all right eating them. Something took over in my mind where it's making good sense to me. Not 6 months ago, buddy, you were in the hospital with an IV on you. Is it really worth trying it again? No. I eat them, end up in hospital. They send my file over. They go, were you here 6 months ago? Yeah. Didn't we explain your situation? Yeah. Didn't you agree not to eat them again? Yeah. What happened? Well, they didn't have red dye on them. And right? So this is where the maladjusted and full-fledged from reality comes. I'm explaining my thinking to the doctor that's looking at my file going, what the hell? So now I make a solemn oath not to do it again. A year and a half goes by. I'm in Belize. I'm walking down. It's a hot day. I'm walking down and I go by this ice cream shop and they have a sale happening. And they have all these awards on the wall for the best pistachio ice cream in the world. I start thinking, well, it's ice cream. Can't be harmful. And it's 2 scoops for the price of 1. I eat the 2 scoops, end up in hospital, right? They send my file over. There's a long pause as they're looking at my file. So as the nurse says, wait here for a second, who's going to be walking through the door next? A psych doctor, because there's something going on up here now, yes? And that's what they're getting at, right? So you may think this is an extreme case. To us is not far-fetched. For this kind of thinking has been characterized of every single one of us. 2 scoops sound nice. What? Maladjusted is explaining that thinking. Well, it's hot. It's ice cream. Is that a little maladjusted full flavor from around down the road? Would you sound like a nut talking to this doctor how you justified ending up back in the hospital again? It's like, okay, we're going to get us. Okay, so characteristic of every single one of us, the collective again. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences. Anybody reflect? Then have a drink and forget all about it? I remember once they told me, I was in Toronto, this old timer goes, before you drink, like I'm out of the army, I went to the army to learn how not to drink. There's a mistake. So this old timer goes, think about it. Just before you drink, think it through. Anybody ever got told that? Play the tape. So they said, this is what they told me to do. They said, phone somebody, play the tape through and pray. Right? I remember I ran out of work. I'm running to the liquor store from work. I'm having a seizure. I don't know. I'm seeing black dots. I'm in trouble, right? So I ran to the liquor store and I'm dry heaving and I'm trying to get. I'm probably 22, 23, and I went and bought a 40 and I put it in my coat when I left the liquor store in case the AA police were around. Looking around, right? I said, "Dear God, help me!" As I'm hanging on the bottle. Nothing coming. So I prayed, right? Then this lady went by that I was trying to get sober with, my home group. She went by in a streetcar. She went, "Hey, Tony." I went, "Hey." Right? So there was a payphone there. Guess who I phoned? Her. I phoned her. Got the answering machine. Right? I got the answer. So I phoned somebody. I prayed. Right? Well, something took over in my thinking. Made sense to me. I'm phoning her. She's in the streetcar. There's no cell phones back then. This is just before pagers. That's another story. So then I'm sitting there with a 40-ouncer and a shot glass. Remember those shot glasses with the white thing? Do they still have it? The different weight, shot and a half, 2 shot. Yeah. So I take the bottle, I pour a shot, I put it in front of me, and I said, "Oh, I better think it through." And I started thinking the stabbings, the beatings, the jails, the hospitals, the blackouts. And I thought, "Oh my God, this is going to get painful. I better get a bigger glass." Got rid of the lid and just started yeehaw, because I needed a solution for the human condition. The insanity took over. There was no defense between me and that drink. So that's what they're getting here, right? So they talk about, we have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences. But there was always the curious mental phenomenon. Anybody look up that word this week? Phenomenon? An unexplainable event that they try to explain. How do you explain an unexplainable event? They say this is what it looks like for those who suffer from it. So as I'm talking with how many people is reflecting back on times in their life where they were doing good, then took a drink, and then, right? And it looks on people's faces and the disappointment. How many people promise the people around them that you're going to do different? How many people in a meeting talking about how great you're doing, and then you're not doing so great again? It's kind of baffling, isn't it? So, right? So our mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning, they're invariably ran some insane, trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how this could happen. And then they go on to talk about different things. So run parallel means, this is kind of my understanding based on my experience and based on, I've worked with thousands of people in the last 35 years almost here. I've done big book study workshops for the last 35 years, right? I've sat with on Friday night with 115 people in those meetings. And I talk to and try to help all, go through the whole thing with them. And most of them, they talk about this thing that lies dormant. They can't see, feel, and touch it. And when it becomes present, they can't negotiate with it. It has them and they're drinking. That's what they're talking about, a phenomenon. And all these people have the same thing. I was doing great. I got a chip. People were saying, fantastic, what a great job. And then I was just before my year cake, or I just took my 30-day cake, or I had my 5-year cake, or I was 25 years sober. And I was sitting there, this lady, 25 years sober, she was sitting someplace, she was there doing something, and she thought, as she was sitting there, she thought, nobody knows me here. She said, a glass of wine won't hurt. And this thing had her. You think her 25 years, so hey, you got 25 years, who cares? You can't, that defense doesn't matter. Another guy I know, he was sober, I think it was 45 years, and he was going to Ireland or something like that, and the lady came down with the tray, right? The thing, she said, can I help you? He says, yeah, nice Ryan Coke will be great. And then afterwards, what are you doing? You ever hear people coming back after long-term sobriety? There's like, I don't know what happened. This is what happens. So what does that mean? So that means as we go through this, what I have today is a daily reprieve from that condition. So I don't know when it left. I can't say exactly when it left, but I know it hasn't come back again. How do I know it hasn't come back again? Because I'm still sober. If it would have came back again, what would I be doing? Drinking. So that's, yeah. Or if I was lucky, I'd be dead in a short period of time. I was vomiting green bile at 27. My liver, right? Little John, I couldn't keep food down. Like, I was in trouble. My brother died at 32 from cirrhosis of the liver. My other brothers, that's a totally different thing. So the illness was strong with us, right? So what I entered was a daily reprieve, this relationship-based experience through this course of action. So I maintain certain principles and ideas that has me sitting here on a Thursday night right from work. I've been going since 5 o'clock this morning, right from work. Haven't had an ice cream for, well, it's the highlight of my day, right? Pistachio ice cream, so be hitting the floor any minute now. If I see me choking, just wait till I turn blue. Okay, before you intervene. No, so what I have is the highlight. So what I have, and there's other people from work and all that, and working with new people is the highlight of our lives, to watch other people get this, and then in turn their families, friends, and all, because we're all dying from this somewhere along the line. We're given an opportunity. We took that opportunity. We walked with people that we may have not liked too much, thought were crazy, but they were the only people paying attention to us. There was no one left. You're the right kind of crazy. You come with us. Why are these people smiling at me every time they see me? You'll know as soon as you get a sponsor as crazy as you. You'll know why we're smiling at you all the time. Right, John? Okay, so they talk about here, and as they go through this, a phenomenon beyond their ability, and then they go through this, and then we've read it on through the years as conduct continues, right? Page 38. Then at the bottom, some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply. So not conceding to their innermost selves that they have this illness. So what needs to happen is they need to get beaten more into submission. So you may not think you're going to relapse. We already know you're going to relapse. We know your story better than you know your story. Those of us who are familiar with the symptoms know what alcoholism looks like. And if you've already told us you have tried 2 or 3 times to get sober and you have yet to do that, and your resistance to what's being presented is strong, where you still think you could do it without doing this, we already know your fate. Right? Anyways, 11 years in and out. Like when these guys got a hold of me, I didn't think it was a good idea to do this. That's the truth. 11 years. Can you imagine 380 meetings in 90 days or 360 meetings in 90 days, 3-month chip, and relapse after 11 years of in and out. Hey, you want to come in a big book study? Oh, no, that's my home group night. That's where all the single girls go. I didn't maintain my sobriety. It does say she could and would if she were sought, doesn't it? It says find a power greater than yourself. I'm nuts, right? So I relapse, and then George goes, hey, we're starting this group again. He says, you've been around a long time, but I'm kind of almost proud of the fact that cheese and cracker not even on the same plate, right? I said, yeah. And he says, you got a profound way of looking at things. I said, yeah. He says, why don't you come and help us out? We could really use your help. Oh, yeah? I could see that. No, so I went to my sponsor who was teaching me the traditions and how to conduct myself in meetings, which is another story altogether. And he says, well, who's doing the study that you're going to go? I said, well, George, Machine Gun Jerry, and Steve and Rick. He says, I think it's a great idea you go there and help them. I showed up at that meeting with a 12 and 12. I'm here to help you. And they took me through this course of action to save my life. Like kicking and screaming all the way through it. The change happened for me was in the 5th step. Like, I mean, I know it's hard to believe, but I wasn't right. Like, I mean, I wasn't getting invited nowhere. Yeah, like, I got kicked out of the North Shore Roundup with 6 security guards, sober.
Sober?
Barred from a lot of restaurants, sober. Like, I know it's hard to believe. Like, I was not, well, I wasn't well as John when I got it. No, I love John. Okay, some of you are thinking, yes, what you tell us is true, but it doesn't fully apply. We admit we have some of these symptoms, but we have not gone to the extremes you fellows did, nor are we like to. For we understand ourselves, right? For what's the first obsession? Is that we can fix ourselves. Who cares to admit complete defeat, right? Who cares to admit that we're bodily and mentally different from our fellows? Who cares to admit that maybe I can't keep myself sober, that I might need this solution? Right? Like, nobody really wants the idea of a spiritual power. A lot of us like our own methods, right? Yeah. My sister. Okay. So we have not lost everything in life, nor through drinking, and we certainly don't intend to. Thanks for the information. So a lot of these people go to 12 and 12 studies, and they're able to stay sober. They still have everything in life. They don't understand drinking against their own will. They don't understand the malady. They don't understand why you keep drinking in spite of everything that happens to you. So we see there's a separation within our fellowship. Right? Doesn't mean that we're not all welcome to be here. It means some of us need to do a different method than those who are engaged in a different method. So the 12 and 12 took over our fellowship for the longest period of time. Like in Toronto, you couldn't find a big book study. 11 years, I've never found a big book study. Like I didn't have no idea what was in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. None. I was in 4 12 and 12 studies the last time I realized. I was running one at the old recovery club in the basement, trying to get this thing. Right? And then someone took me through the big book once. In my mental state, like, cheese and cracker. Like, I know it's hard. Looking back, like I had this knob from 79 Pontiac Le Mans, had a screw, holding my glasses on. Afro was like this. I thought I was a vision for you. Like, I'm nuts. They wouldn't even let me be a greeter at the door. Shake my hand the wrong way, we got a problem. Second guy in, squeezing a little too hard, you got a problem? Hey, Tony, come set up chairs for a while. Maybe don't interact with nobody for now, okay? Okay, so then we got Fred. So, this is worth important. So thanks for the info. That may be true of non-alcoholic people who, though drinking foolishly and heavily at the time, are able to stop or moderate because their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. Page 20, 21 again, right? Given good reason. And it doesn't mean that these people aren't potential alcoholics within our fellowship. That means there's a certain line that once we cross, we're not like them anymore, right? So their problem is the obsession. Our problem isn't the obsession anymore. We don't want to drink. They're still at the stage of thinking there's a way I could drink without consequence. Big difference. Right? They're still at the place where there's got to be a way I could control and enjoy my drinking. Maybe I'll just give it a little time. And then they talk about here, but the actual or potential alcoholic with hardly an exception will be absolutely unable to stop drinking on the basis of self-knowledge. This is a point we wish to emphasize and re-emphasize, to smash home upon our alcoholic readers, to smash home upon the people who are reading this, because most of us think. We know what you were thinking. As soon as you heard something you didn't like, you started thinking. Ain't nobody in this group, you're fine listeners here. I could tell when you guys engage, you like, and then you hear something you don't like. How long has those holes been up there? right? Your mind takes you away from looking at it. Anybody? Huh? It's just the way it is, right? So it takes a lot to really focus on what's... And what I really like is when people give me dirty lecture. Not arguing with me. You're arguing with the book. That Tony guy, that group, stay away from them. Those people are problematic. Yes, we're nuts.
Right.
But we're on the right side of nuts. You? Oh, look, still looking for the cracker. I got the cheese. Okay. Oh, my God. Where am I? Okay. So now we go to Fred, right? And which is cool is, as we go through this, right, he talks about he made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him perhaps he could not do so. So has this guy had a step one experience yet? As he tried to stop drinking? Does he admit he has a problem? Does he admit it's a problem beyond his ability to deal with? No. Right? So we're looking for in his story two things. One, the malady, and the second one is the step one experience. Right? So a part of that, as we go through here, we talk about here at the bottom, right? We told him what we knew of alcoholism. What are we doing here today? We're telling you what we know about alcohol. We're explaining step one. Right? So what step 1 and 2 is just information steps. Right? And based on that information, you'll make a decision whether you want to follow through with this solution if you're of our type and need our solution. So we explain to you what step 1 is, and we explain to you what step 2 is. Yes?
Yeah.
No, and did it say so far, choose your own conception of our problem and our idea? You either understand it or you don't. You need to understand our specific solution to the specific problem. How you look at it later in regards to your own conception, meaning your own plan and ideas to allow you to move through this, is secondary. But the first idea is you need to understand what we're talking about and what we're offering as a solution. You can't choose your own conception beforehand. What are you basing it on? Right? That's the brain taking over again. The book is very designed in such a way it explains the problem. It's like how many people, if you went to a mechanic and they try to just sell you something you didn't need. You know, I don't see a problem with my car. I won't get it now. Anybody been there? So here they tell you what the problem is, so you see you need a solution, and you need it now, right? You see, it's interesting how they didn't start off with the solution, then get into the problem. They start with the problem, and the more hopeless you feel, the better job I've done. Because my job, as a good facilitator, is to disturb you about the question of drinking. Because the only person who's not disturbed about your drinking in your life is you, which is a problem.
Yeah.
Everybody around you is disturbed. I was wondering when you were going to join us. No, that was good. Well, it's true, right? Right?
Yep.
And now you're concerned. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so here we go. So we heard no more of Fred for a while. One day, we were told he was back in the hospital. This time, he was quite shaky. He soon indicated he was anxious to see us. I love this part. The story he told was most instructive, for here was a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, who had no excuse for drinking, who exhibited splendid judgment, determination, and all his other concerns. Again, separating the idea from the illness of alcoholism and the human condition. They're not one and the same thing. You hear people say, I'm dealing with untreated alcoholism every day. How? What are you considering untreated alcoholism? Your emotional state? No, that's your human condition based on resentments, fears, and all the conduct you've been engaged in for a year and not addressing it. Right? So the process straightens everything out mentally and spiritually within you, and at the same time, it alleviates this problem. It removes this problem through the application of these principles. We don't treat alcoholism, but somewhere along the line, by applying the plunger, it unplugs the toilet. Right? You're just more plugged up than you realize. Just don't flush. Okay, so I don't know why I go there. So he goes on and talks about his story, right? We have a 7 tradition. We're going to pass it around. Last week we didn't make the rent, so we are self-supporting with our own contribution. So here's the homework. see, as he tells this story, where the malady took place, what was going on in his life when the drinking happened. Because remember the last guy, Jim, we seen he had problems. We seen he was irritable. We seen, no wonder he drank, yes? So now they're going to give an example of somebody with no problems whatsoever. And they kind of mentioned here, this guy's got a lot going on except for his illness, right? And see where this, as he tells his story, where the malady happened and where he has this step one experience. So see if you can pick out where he's had his step one experience, or he moves from having a problem to the step one experience. Does that kind of make sense? Yep. And then there's two people that approach him that he called. They're talking to him. Write down what two steps they're talking to him from what position. So these two guys are talking to the new guy from what experience? What step are the two members talking to this individual about? And the individual that's hearing it, what steps are they hearing? Does that kind of make sense? So the person receiving the information, like Bill sitting with Ebby, Ebby was passing on his experience, right? Ebby was doing something that we classify. See if you can pick out what that is that Ebby's doing. And what is Ebby talking to Bill about? What steps is Ebby talking to Bill about? Does that kind of make sense? Okay, I didn't explain it. Okay, so Ebby is doing a 12-step call on Bill. What step is Ebby talking about? He's talking about step 12, having had the experience. But he's talking to Bill about what steps? 1 and 2, right? So is Bill understanding step 12, or is he understanding 1 and 2? 1 and 2. What are we studying? Steps 1 and 2. They're doing like a 12-step call to the reader, who is us. Does that kind of make sense? Yes. So then look at, first they explain, this is the order we need to do things in meetings with new people. First they explain the problem, then see exactly what they explain next, right? So we'll live long and prosperous. May the force be with you. Let's close with the serenity prayer. What do we need for a good meeting? Good life. God, serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. And wisdom, no different. We need help cleaning up and all that stuff. Thank you, everybody online, for joining us.